science, in chemistry, and a master's of science in environmental engineering. He worked as an environmental engineer for the EPA and Pollution Control Board in Illinois for over 10 years. He went to medical school and earned his medical degree in 2007. He finished his internship at St. Louis University and his residency at UMKC. Besides general psychiatry, he specializes in addiction, sexual dysfunction, and couples therapy. He is in private practice in Lawrence, Kansas, and Kansas City. He's very active in the skeptic community in public education, lives in Lawrence with his wife of 28 years, 2 children, and 2 dogs. And he also is the bringer of donuts. We have extra donuts today. And you know that's where all of our hearts really lie. So let's give him a really great warm welcome.
Yeah, it's a bright day and a lot of sun. So I don't know if you can see this, but these are some pictures that I've taken. And great, so we'll get started. So the topic today then is to say why common sense is not so common. Now, let me see some hands. How many people here think that they have common sense? Oh, come on. I thought everybody should raise their hand. And raise your hand if you think other people don't have it. So, being a skeptic then, you know that both conditions can be true. Because everybody thinks that they have common sense, but the other people don't. And therein which lies the problem. So I thought we examine some common things about common sense. So obviously that's my name. You can call me Hiten or Soni. I also go by Southside Shrink and other common names. Like I said, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm an award-deserving public speaker. If you know of any awards you want to nominate me, feel free. If you know anybody on the Skepticon, this is the 30th year in a row I've gotten blown off. It's alright, I'm not that proud. I'm also a skeptic and student at large. Notice not a large student. It's a student at large, okay? And all around nice guy. That's what my wife tells me. I believe her. Alright, so let's get started. Simple question now, and I need a volunteer. Do you have good math skills?
Yes.
Good. You must have some Asian friends. Alright, so this is what I want you to do. When people you have to face that way. When people answer, you will count and write it down the answer. Alright, somebody give a piece of paper. So you have 5 apples on the table. You take away 2 apples. How many apples do you have? These are your choices. Okay, let's go with answer A. Two apples. You take, you have 5 apples on the table. You take away 2. How many apples do you have? Choice A says 2, and you will count how many people have. And that's choice A.
I'll count when the hands stop moving.
Okay, all right. Okay. B, 3. 3 apples. You have 3 apples. How many going for 3? Okay. How many say 5? Yeah. And how many say 0? The Buddhist among us. Yes. All apples are temporary. Yes. 0. 4. Good. Nobody should get that. 4. That would be bad. So let's think about that. It's a very simple question. Yet, in this very intelligent group of people, at least on this side, but and some intelligent people this side as well, why is it so difficult to get this question right? And don't answer that. We will come back to this and during the presentation and we will see why this question is so difficult to answer and get it right. So as a psychiatrist, then all I deal with is Prozac. No. I deal with brain and thought processes. And that is how I treat my patient. We look at your thought processes. So we're going to see what thought processes are active here. Okay. The Commonsense is not so common. It's actually a quote attributed to Voltaire. That's not his real name, but that's the name he assumed. Voltaire is like my hero from the Renaissance. Why? He is a professional party goer. He made living by going to parties. When I say professional party goer, he got paid to go to the party. When the French aristocrats throw a party, the guests would ask, is Voltaire going to be there? And any prince or nobleman couldn't afford Voltaire, their party would suck. So, there are just some peppered in there. Yeah, so the Commonsense is like deodorant. People who need it the most never use it. This is the clip from Office, and Michael and Dwayne are driving. The GPS is telling them to turn right while he's still working on the audio. Okay. And it's telling them to turn right. And there are 2 places that you can see they can turn right. There's the GPS telling him, no, he doesn't mean that one. And they're confused which one he is pointing, and they end up in the lake. They end up in the lake. He sees the lake, yet he continues to drive. This clip doesn't need the sound. Okay, I'll do. Is that an N? He says. Is that an N? And yeah. This is on the national television. He says, "Is there an N?" Now, mind you, that in order to get that far in the Wheel of Fortune, you have to do some basic candidate. There are like 40 people that show up, and you have to go through preliminary lot of rounds before you get to the final. So he made it through, and this is N. Here's what he came up with. Yeah. So these are a couple of examples that. This slide is not going to work here because maybe a couple of people there can tell me. What do you see here? Moon. Excellent. Okay. There, if you come close, a couple of volunteers come closer, and it's not working. So we'll just slide. There's supposed to be a picture of Saddam Hussein in there. But if you see it right there. Yeah. Well, some people see it, okay? People in the back see it. Okay, so they're not.
Where we sent it.
So now this is the part that I get excited about. So did I mention I brought some lovely, and by lovely I mean cheap, things that you answer. I think you participated, yeah. So if you participate, you get a pen, yeah. And you participated, sir.
I'll keep the expensive one.
Oh, no. That's what I read the prescriptions with. Yeah. So let's look at the thinking apparatus. And I'm not talking about your kidneys. Thinking apparatus. So, oh, that's the frontal lobe. And that's what I want you to pay attention. The frontal lobe. Back in here is the occipital lobe. So that's would be like here. And that's the only part of the brain I want you to know right now. Frontal lobe in the, obviously, front. Occipital lobe in the occipital lobe is where all the information from eye is assembled. So when those of you who saw the picture of Saddam Hussein, and some of you will recognize that that was a moon, how do you know that it was a moon? It looked like the moon, but how do you know?
Compared to what we already did.
Exactly. Who said that? Yeah, Gene, can you give him that? So, yeah, because, so the occipital lobe then assembled the image of the moon, send it to the frontal lobe. There is a visual association cortex where all the images of all the circular thing like that is searched in your brain. And then you came up with the answer, you know, that could very well be moon. From all the pictures I've seen of moon, I know that's a picture of moon. So that comes to your frontal lobe, and when your frontal lobe is working well, unlike the guy who chose N, then you know, that's how you know, okay? Unless the information comes to your frontal lobe, you are not aware of what your brain is doing or thinking. Okay? That's the message I want you to lose. So how do you know what you know? Well, my brain knows. How does your brain know? And that's how your brain knows. Information then comes to your frontal lobe. So let's look at how does the information flow in your brain. So first, the retina collects the light, sends the signal to the optic nerve, to the occipital lobe. And that's the occipital lobe in the yellow. The occipital lobe then assembles the image and sends it to the frontal lobe. Then the visual hippocampus. Hippocampus is a fancy word that means seahorse. When the ancient anatomists, when they looked at structures in the brain, they looked at other things that they knew, and that's how they named it. So the hippocampus is actually a memory center. So when you, well not you, but your mother, or especially your mother-in-law, when she gets Alzheimer's, the occipital lobe is dying and they can't remember stuff. Okay? It searches and sends the information to the frontal lobe and says, you know, a white disc like that, I've seen many pictures, and it's a moon. And that's how you know that it's a moon. Okay? Let's look at that. Then you hear the word Saddam Hussein through your ear. Then information is then sent to the auditory cortex where the sound is put together. And you then associate the word Saddam Hussein with the person that you know as the late Iraqi dictator. Yes? Again, the frontal lobe assembles the image of the moon, assembles the sound Saddam Hussein, puts it together. Now the hypothesis within the context is formed. What does that mean? I showed you the picture. Actually, that picture was published a few days after he was hanged in the Iraqi newspaper. That was an actual picture that they took, and they put it on the newspaper. Now, you and I, we all know this is called what? No, it's not called Rorschach. That's a good wrong answer. Would you give him a pen? Yeah. That's a good wrong answer. Thank you for saying that. It's a pareidolia. That's when you see an image that kind of looks like a person. Yeah. And now you're asking yourself, now how the hell the picture of Saddam Hussein would be on the... It's like, no, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. So then then you search, you weigh the evidence, and you conclude that the image of Saddam Hussein on the moon, no matter how real it appears to us, can't be real. So your frontal lobe is concluding then, you weigh the evidence, and you conclude that experience as an optical illusion. Okay? Okay. The conclusion. We hopefully reject the hypothesis and reconcile our sensory experience that it can't be a real picture of the Saddam Hussein on the moon. So the frontal lobe comes to the rescue and frontal lobe tells you that I know what you are seeing, but it's not real. Your frontal lobe then rescues you, unlike the gentleman who chose Thank you. So we integrate the all available information and concluded correctly that the picture on the moon of Saddam Hussein is an illusion. Unlike Michael, when he was driving, he sees the lake, yet he refuses to get his foot off the gas pedal and put it on the brake. His frontal lobe refuses, and he's duped by the GPS telling him to turn right. Birth of common sense then. So after years of learning that we have rejected what appears to be false conclusion, we are confident in our frontal lobe's ability to tell us when the things don't add up. Is it okay? You could say this is kind of like a BS detector that we have and we rely on. And our frontal lobe has served us well. We can trust us to steer us well. Loosely put then, our reliance on our frontal lobe is what we call common sense. Okay? But note that there is no organ in the brain that evolved or was creatively designed to be a bullshit detector. There isn't one. There isn't. And I showed you 2 examples earlier. Consider this. If your frontal lobe is being duped, who will save us? Yeah, answer is there, yeah. No one. Now, in his case, I would say it is true that he would know if his frontal lobe was deceiving us. But if my frontal lobe is deceiving me, will I know? No. Does anybody in this room ever get conned? No, just me? Yeah. 10 minutes later, after it occurs, you know you've been had. I once bought a vacuum cleaner for $1,200. Do you know how many vacuum cleaners you can get for $1,200? Hurry, yes! You were selling them. No? And after the guy left... Was she cute? No, he was bold. He was not even a good-looking chap. He was a guy. And he was not even a good-looking guy, mind you. She was there. Where did she go? Oh, there. You were there. Yeah, it was something to do with. I don't know. She never told me. Anyway, the little after he left, I was like, I bought a vacuum cleaner for $1,200, and it seemed like a good deal. Yeah. Frontal lobe deceived me. I did not know. And you don't have to feel ashamed for it. You can come to my office, we'll talk about it. You don't have to be ashamed. We all can be. So let's look at more. So let's look inside the frontal lobe, okay? So what is happening inside the frontal lobe? And we'll tell you in a second. Visual information is sent to the frontal lobe. Auditory information is sent to the frontal lobe. Memory bank sends information. Everything you know about moon, including the fake landing. You know about it, right? No? So in the memory bank, it's sent then to the frontal lobe. All the other sensory inputs are then sent to the frontal lobe. Emotional input is then put into the frontal lobe. When you hear the word Saddam Hussein, all those emotions that you associate with them come with it. That is sent to the frontal lobe, and you do all the processing, and then either accept or reject the hypothesis. The gentleman who chose N looked at everything that was on the screen, and for some reason he thought clam nigger was a phrase. I do not understand what thought process he did, but his frontal lobe was duping him, and he did not realize on national television. Now, he could be a very nice guy. I don't know anything about him. But you see that you will not know. When I wrote the check for the $1,200 vacuum cleaner, I thought I got a deal. Yeah. I did, and I was happy about it until 15 minutes later. Accept or reject. This is how we use this is the process we call okay, so I only have 15 minutes now. So let's look inside the frontal lobe. It says culture. If you believe then in Immaculate Conception, the gentleman came to me at the Reason Fest, and he wanted to debate with me. I know this guy from, where's Andy? He told me about this guy. He walks around and and he goes, well, you know, the religious people are not mentally ill, you know. And it's like, oh? He goes, yeah, you know the one I'm talking about? Yeah. And then, so he wanted to debate. He goes, well, if I believe in Immaculate Conception, and that's not a mental illness, and so we talked about it. And I said to him that as far as the psychiatry profession is concerned, if a false belief is defined as a delusion, a false belief that you can have a male child without a Y chromosome is a false belief. Okay? And that by definition is a delusion. Yet, if the delusion is culturally held delusion, then it is not a mental illness. Therefore, if everybody is crazy, then nobody is crazy. Okay? Now, you go to Saudi Arabia, now you're crazy. Because not everybody in Saudi Arabia believes that you can have. Now, if you believe that an elephant's head could be transplanted onto a 9-year-old boy, that's a delusional belief. But in India, it's not. Because if everybody's crazy, okay? Culture. Have you got that? Time. In 1950, if we use the word N, it would be culturally accepted. Not in 2014. Culture. What's the common sense? In one culture is not so common sense in another culture. What was common sense at the time of Civil War? It's not common sense today. Time. Mores. What is that?
Social graces. Like social graces.
Sorry?
Social graces?
Yeah, social. Yeah, okay, social something. Yeah, it's the culturally accepted things that we do, cultural mores. So it's okay for me to go topless on the Kansas City, Baltimore Avenue. Should my wife do it, it would be a problem. Not for me, but it would be a problem. Here it says age and development. Ladies, how many of you have dated men your age and he was 10 years too immature? Yeah? You know, not really, of course, but you know, okay, yeah.
Why not me?
Age and then development. So, what is common sense for a 14-year-old? It isn't for a 42-year-old. My daughter got a record player yesterday. She was amazed to find out that there is more music on the other side. Did you know you could flip it? There is more music on the other side? It's like, yes. It was, yeah. Formal and informal education. Have you ever noticed it is always the guy at the corner gas station who can solve the Middle East crisis? My father had a perfect solution for the Middle East crisis. He couldn't get me and my sister to stop fighting for 45 years, but he could solve the Israeli-Palestinian. The guy sitting next to me in the bus one time, I was taking a bus and I didn't have a car. And I was a poor resident and I forgot my ID tag, and he looks at me, "You're a doctor?" I said, how did you know? He goes, "It says your tag." And he goes, "I have a cure for HIV. And I was like, "Please don't tell me." Half information, dangerous. Formal and informal education changes the common sense. It changes the common sense. I should have a right to carry an AK-47 if the government should come with their tank and their drones. I'll be able to fight the U.S. Army National Guard with my AK-47 and yeah. Cultural, formal education. Social status. Social status is an amazing concept. Did you know? They did the study then in England, and they found the higher up you went in the public service, less likely you are to die of a heart attack. The lower you were on the rank, more likely you were to die of a heart attack. More likely you were to have Alzheimer's. More likely you were to have. And it had nothing to do with anything else, simply on the rank status. It had nothing to do with ability to afford the healthcare, because in England, the communist people, in England they have that universal, but you know that, yeah. All right, we'll just leave this alone for now. The peer group. Yeah, the peer group. I have a lot more time by the way, so feel free to participate. The peer group, twin studies have shown this. The two people born and raised in the same family go to different classrooms will have widely different common sense. They were same culture, same age, same time, same economic status, same social status, same religion, yet their sense of common sense is different because they have uncommon peer groups. Okay? One could be a goth, one could be a jock, whatever. Totally different common sense. Parenting. Okay, we won't say anything about that. Now, if you don't believe this, watch television commercials, turn off the sound, and count the number of cleavages. In fact, it is so important I had to put it 3 times. Okay, one more. Everything that we do and decide in terms of a common sense has this huge component. The amount of real estate that's devoted to making a yes-no decision that has the input in the sexuality is huge. Huge, okay? So, this was an actual act.
Yes.
Okay? So, common sense at a time. Common sense at a time. Not so much today. So the mind is a product of the biology, intelligence, memory, gender, and sexual orientation, cultural and environment. Language and vocabulary. The vocabulary is so important. When you don't know the meaning of the word, how do you judge the meaning of the word?
Context.
All right? Yeah, you look. Okay. Yeah. The context, you look at the context. And you look at what else? The non-verbal communication. So you are relying on what again?
Common sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, she said it first.
Oh, I got the purple.
Yeah, so when you don't know the word in the sentence, you're relying on what? On your common sense. And if your common sense tells you, I tell you, there was the medical, it was a resident, let's say, who was fired later on. He didn't know the meaning of the word afebrile. It means without a fever. And after a while, he would say, why do they keep saying afebrile? It's like, he doesn't have a systemic infection. And he goes, oh, so afebrile means not a systemic infection? It's like, no, it means no fever. Oh. He didn't know the word afebrile was not in his vocabulary, so he just assumed, based on his common sense, that it must mean systemic infection. Total sum of your past experiences. If you went to Dr. Patel, and you know you have. Nobody here has been to a Dr. Patel. There's one at every corner. What are you talking about? You still haven't seen a doctor named Dr. Patel. Okay, yeah, thank you. Can you give her a pen, please? Thank you. Yeah. You had a bad experience with an Indian doctor, is what I'm saying. You look at me and it's like, oh, not another Indian doctor. Yeah, I had a patient ask me then, hey, Dr. Soni, how come there are so many Indian doctors? And I said, well, because there are so many Indian. And he's waiting for the rest of the explanation. And it's like, no, that's the explanation. There are so many Indians that, okay. And all the sum of the past experiences will become part of the common sense. Earlier when I made a joke about your math skills and you having Asian friends, everybody got the joke that the Asians are good in math, except that they have not met my cousins. Yeah, none of them went beyond the 8th grade or 9th grade. So it's just common sense in our culture that the Asians are good in math. You go back home and you ask other Asians, they're like, I don't know, man, I didn't do so good in math. When I go back home and I tell people about hunger in Chicago, they look at me and it's like, what do you mean there are people hungry? They're in America, how could they be hungry? It just doesn't compute. And it doesn't, because what they see on Oprah is what they think America is like. My brother-in-law would tell me, I don't want to come to America. I say, why not? Because, well, at least in India, men are men and women are women. I'm like, what do you mean? Apparently he saw the Maury special where there were people parading and then the audience had to guess which one was a man and which wasn't. And he was wrong every time. And he's like, I'm not going to America. He's here, by the way. Each factors then make us what we are and how we respond to the stimuli. If you have never seen the picture of Saddam Hussein, never heard of his name, you would not be able to recognize that picture. Is it okay? If you never heard of Jesus, you cannot recognize him on the toast. Look at us, this stimulus. Can somebody read it out loud for me? The lady in the bikini says, everything covered but her eyes. What a cruel, male-dominated culture. The lady in burqa says, nothing covered but her eyes. What a cruel, male-dominated culture. Stimuli are different, vastly different stimuli, yet reaching the same conclusion based on their cultural common sense. They are both correct from both their perspective. Okay? So since no two persons have an identical set of experiences, each one of us have the unique idea of common sense. And that's why nobody can get that question right about how many apples. Now only if there was a way for me to just keep the sun out. So you make the call, okay? You're about to buy a fancy gold-plated fountain pen that costs $20. A fellow customer tips you off the same pen is available at the Walmart for $13. Okay, the Walmart part is not true. A store only about 10-minute drives away. So, what? Will you drive 10 minutes to save $7?
Yes.
Maybe.
So, I should give choices or yes and no. Okay, there is a pen coming. Please answer. Like, well, I don't see him taking it off. I'm not answering it until he ends out the pen.
Is there a gold plated?
Don't make eye contact with him without the pen. Okay, will you drive 10 minutes to save $7?
Yes.
Can I control it?
It depends on how much time you have. Right.
No. Did I not just say choices are yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, the only choices are yes or no. Okay, you know what your answer is, hang on to it. You are about to buy an Italian silk suit for $432. A fellow customer tips you off the same suit is for sale at another store 10 minutes away, costs $425. Will you drive 10 minutes to save $7? Absolutely not. What kind of a cheap ass you think I am? I know, I'm thinking that's a redundancy, he's Indian. What is he talking about? Of course he's going to drive. I don't know if you know that Indians are the new Jews. You've never heard of it? Well, now you have. You know, you don't believe me, go to any doctors, accountants, Dunkin' Donuts, Super 8, hotels. Why will you not drive 10 minutes to save $7 when you would do it previously? Those who said yes, answer. Okay, let's try it again. Those who said yes, answer. If some of you would, go ahead.
Because your brain makes a different determination of value of that $7 savings when you're only spending $20 versus a over $400.
Okay, but the question I was asking had nothing to do with the value of the pen or the suit. The question I'm asking is, will you drive 10 minutes to save $7? No. That's the same question all the time. It had nothing to do with original thoughts. Alright. What do you say? Percentage has the right. It's the right wrong answer I'm looking for. Percentage, did I ask you the percentage?
No.
What is your cost investment? 10-minute drive. What is the payoff for the 10-minute drive? What does that have to do with the percentage? Say nothing. Yeah, nothing. It has nothing to do with the percentage. And that is why the do you remember what I tell you? The frontal lobe deceives you? Go ahead.
Well, is it possible, like 30, 40 minutes investment, because the exact customer is incorrect, so you have to drive the store, look at the thing?
No, this is all legit. There's no.
How much money do I have? Am I rich or am
Still nothing to do with the Rob Myers. I expect better than that from you. No pen for you. No, listen, you make a good point. The difference between the two choices, the price of the object is irrelevant. The investment is 10-minute drive, the payoff is $7. And the analyticals among you get it. Why or not? Okay, I'm going to move along. Okay, here's another one. $20 gift certificate that costs you $7. A $20 gift certificate that costs you $7. Or a $10 gift certificate for absolutely free. What do you want to choose?
Do I have to drive for it?
No, you don't have to drive. I'm going to give it to you right here.
Thank you.
Well, not because after the last one, they're like, hey, where's my certificate? It's like, no, it was an example, man. I'm not giving you a certificate. What will you choose?
Free.
Yeah, and that is exactly the wrong answer looking for. What is your overall benefit in the first one? And how much is it costing you to get $13? No, it's costing you $7 to get 20. But what is your net profit? What is your net profit in the second one? Why are you taking less net profit? Oh, you know what? I'm just going to give you a pen. I have no idea what to say.
Wind up in your pocket forever.
You see the word free. Free. Cost. We have cost aversion. What do you mean $7? But you're taking away 13 is your net profit. A net profit of 13 is better than 10 any day. Room full of intelligent people. Frontal lobe deceives you. You will not know. You will after today. Oh yeah. Here it says, move the deer crossing where there is less profit. Here, I don't know if you can see, there is a van. They are putting up this post. Yeah. These are union cement people. I don't know. Okay. How much would you pay for a $20 bill? Now that question in itself is ridiculous. Because the $20 has the inherent value of $20. Why would you want to buy a $20 bill? I know, some of you are saying maybe it was Paris Hilton spat on it or something, I don't know. You guys are intelligent, you would never do that. Yeah. So, the highest bill you paid for a $20 is $164 by a Harvard MBA student. And that's how Enron happens. Okay? Let's look at this. The experiment is this. I give you a $20 bill. I'm going to start bidding. Do I have a $20 bill? My wife doesn't give me that. Do I have a $20 bill? I do not have it. I do have a $20 bill. Alright, let's just try it. It's not going to work in this room because. But let's say there was a $20 bill. We'll start the bid. I will not give it to you at the end, by the way. You'll get a free pen. But okay, so let's start the bidding. This is how the bidding goes. You bid. It can only go in increment of $1. The winner gets it, and the previous bidder gets to pay whatever the losing bid was. Okay. Did you get the rule? So if you bid 5, then you bid 6, you get it for 6, and you get to give me $5 for nothing. So when they started the bidding, this is what happens at the $19. So say you bid 19, and you bid 18 previously. Okay. So at 19,
And the other person will say more because they.
so what is, if he wins, what is it going to cost you?
18.
18, then what do you get in return? Nothing. So what are you thinking right now? Bid right now is 19.
I'm at 19. I'm not gonna take it.
You're going to pay 20.
He's 21. Yeah.
You're going to go 21. Why?
Because I want him to pay for it.
Exactly.
For two.
The fear and greed. Fear and greed overrides your common sense. And
Why did they put it 100% more?
because at some point, that's all the money he had. Do you see how Enron happens? Do you see how the Lehman Brothers, all those people, they all financial geniuses, Bernie Madoff, fear and greed overrides common sense every time. She's wearing exactly the same thing she is thinking of buying. There's no difference. Yeah, she's asking the opinion of the other people who are wearing exactly the same thing. It's a cultural thing. It's not necessarily funny, but
Let's get to some differences.
now, that is Aunt Fatima. What is the point? It makes perfect sense to him. It makes perfect sense to him. To all you hunters who kill animals for food, shame on you. You ought to go to the store, buy the meat that was made there with no animals were harmed. Says your local vegan. Donna fears that she may be anorexic. It makes perfect sense to Donna. Because the regular water has too many calories. Do you know how many pounds I have gained by drinking that tap water? I'm glad there is a diet water. And this looks like a regular picture. It's not so bad that somebody put a toilet paper holder up over there, but somebody thought it's a good idea then to actually use it. Put the toilet paper. And maybe they only take showers every 10 a day, it works for them. I don't know. She's tying her shoelaces. That's it. Try this. If you choose an answer to this question at the random, what is the chance you will be correct? Choice A, 25%, B, 50%, C, 60%, D is 25%.
B.
There's no right answer.
Oh, there is a right answer.
It's B. B.
You see, all the years of math, all the years of hanging out with your Asian friends. I'm not going to give you the answer, okay? You have to come to my office. It says, no, nurse, I said sleep off his spectacles. Spectacles. The glasses, the spectacles, not the... Yeah. No. Oh, you want me to sleep off his testicles? No. So, 53, 60, and 70. And their defense, it is a Fox News, okay? It's a cheap shot, I know, they're sorry. In case of fire, you are destined to burn because this door won't open because you're supposed to use that. But you can't use that door because you're supposed to use this. The hearing protection, you can't see well, he's holding a gun. And he's putting it in his ear. Yeah, well, the sound, mind you, is far more injurious to your eardrums than bullet would be. Here's a basketball thing is facing that way. Hey, that's what the plan calls for. It's in the blueprint. There is a telephone post, and maybe they just use like motorcycles or something. Says, Leroy, do you like the toilet brush I got for your birthday? Says, no, Ma, I'm going back to using paper. There's a dentist. Well, it's not a dentist. He's got a chisel and a stone. Yeah. Here it says right or, so they did. Is lowering minimum wage is better for your workforce? Alright, simple question, let's come back to that. You have 5 apples. Where is my math guy? Okay, you ready? Math guy.
JJ.
Yeah.
You want the votes?
Yeah, so tell me, how many of them said 2?
17 hands.
17 hands. For 3?
5 hands.
For 5?
19.
19. 0?
I got 1.
1. And luckily we don't have any 4. So now you said you know everything there is to be known about common sense. Answer it again. 2? How many go for 2? You have to take it again. You have to earn that pen. Take it again. How many of you say 2? So, yeah. So how many people did we lose? I'm sorry.
12.
We lost 12 people. Okay. 3. What happened?
We gained 2.
5.
Gained 13.
Yeah. So all of a sudden 5 looks very, very... Now those of you who changed the answer to 5, you want to tell me why? Of course there is a pen in it for you. Okay, so what is it? Just can somebody share?
Because you still have 5 apples on the table.
Well, you took 2
Well,
away.
if you take 2, you still have 2 here, and then you have 3 on the table.
Yeah.
So you still have 5.
You still have 5. But still 5.
So the people who still stick to the 2, argue with them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Time's running out. Our time's running out. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's a simple question, and it depends. Half. You have 5 apples on the table. What is remember I talked about vocabulary, and when you don't know the meaning of the word, what do? You're relying on your common sense. When I said you have 5 apples, what did that mean to you?
There are 5 apples.
No, I didn't say there are 5 apples. I said you have 5 apples. What does that mean to you, sir?
So people who voted for 0 don't usually on the table.
You see now, you see the meaning of the word have. Bill Clinton, when he was when he was being whatever for the money club thing, he argued 45 minutes for the definition of the word is. And that's how he got out of it. Because at the end, nobody knew what the word is. It depends on your cultural background, what the word have mean to you. Does it imply possession? Who possesses the 5 apple? If you take 2 away, does it change the meaning or the possession of the apple? What does that mean? Were the 5 apples are yours to begin with, and you only separated them into 2 piles, 2 and 3? You still have 5 apples. But you came to my house and you were leaving with the 2 apples, now you have 2 apples. So it's a context dependent, and that is why the common sense is not so common, because it's context dependent. It's culture, the time. How old are you? What does have mean? What does take away mean? Do I still maintain the possession when I take away? Did I have 5 apples and I gave 2 to Ben? Then I have 3. If Ben takes away 2 apples, then he has 2. So which side of the table are you on? Which side of the possessive property of the have are you on? And therefore, a simple question, 5. If I said 5 minus 2, everybody get it right.
Yeah.
But when you put a context that has a cultural significance, nobody can get it right. And I don't want you to fight about this when you go home. But if you do, know I do couples therapy. And how many apples do you have? Okay? So there are questions, but these are all the other internet words for questions. So whatever you speak. Well, I'll take one and then we'll stop. I'm over time. I explained everything so clearly, no questions.
I don't know if
Like, there's no right answer. There's no right answer. Because it depends whose apple, whose house the table belongs to. Thank you, Helen. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. So when you go home and you start fighting with your boyfriend about the apples, bring them to my office.